Chosen one, stop scrolling. This is not content, coincidence, or curiosity pulling you in. This is a God's message, arriving in exact God's timing, and it found you because something in you recognized it before your mind could interrupt. This video is about why you were called, what is awakening inside you, and why this moment matters now. That pause you felt, that sudden stillness, that quiet knowing that whispered, "This is for me," was not imagination. It was recognition, and once recognition happens, there is no turning back. You did not land here by accident. A chosen one is drawn, not distracted. This video is about your spiritual awakening, why your attention slowed, why your spirit leaned in, and why your path has never looked ordinary. Before logic can explain it, the soul already knows, and that inner stirring you feel right now is ancient, intentional, and alive. Stay with this, because what you are about to hear will reveal why you were prepared, why the war was real, and what is about to shift next. This is a message from God, and it arrived precisely when it needed to, not earlier, not later. God's timing does not move according to human urgency or expectation. It moves according to readiness. And readiness does not mean having everything figured out. It means having reached the point where your spirit is open enough to hear without demanding proof. That is why this message did not find everyone. Many would have heard the words but missed the meaning. Many would have analyzed instead of recognized. But you felt it before you understood it. That is how calling reveals itself. Here is the truth you need to hear clearly. God is preparing a door you didn't even know to look for. Not the door you prayed for in desperation. Not the one you tried to force open. Not the one you assumed would fix everything. This is a door beyond your awareness, beyond your old expectations, beyond the limits of what you thought was possible for you. And the reason you didn't see it before is because you weren't meant to. Awareness too early would have created fear, attachment, or interference. God hid the door not to punish you, but to protect the process. If this resonates in your spirit, comment 777 right now, not for me, not for the algorithm, but as an act of alignment. A quiet acknowledgement that something in you recognizes this moment. You may have spent years wondering why certain paths never opened, why effort didn't always lead to results, why timing felt delayed no matter how much you tried. But what you called delay was divine preparation unfolding beneath your awareness. God does not reveal the destination to the chosen one before shaping the vessel. What opens next requires a version of you that could not exist earlier. That is why the door remained hidden. That is why the silence stretched. That is why clarity came only in fragments. It was not absence. It was strategy. This message is not here to excite you. It is here to steady you. There is a difference. Excitement fades quickly, but recognition stays. And recognition is what you are feeling now. You were called long before you understood what that meant. You were marked long before you accepted it. The pressure you felt, the inner conflict, the sense of being different without knowing why, those were not flaws. They were signals. Signals that your light was real and therefore contested. Make no mistake, the war is real. Not dramatic, not theatrical, but real. Whenever light carries purpose, resistance follows. Whenever someone is chosen to carry clarity, confusion tries to surround them. You may have felt this as self-doubt, fatigue, or seasons where nothing seemed to move. But the resistance you faced was not proof of weakness. It was proof of significance. What carries no value is never opposed. This is why this moment matters. Not because everything changes instantly, but because something settles inside you. The need to force begins to loosen. The need to explain yourself starts to fade. A quiet knowing replaces the old urgency. That is alignment beginning to form. That is spiritual awakening, moving from disruption into clarity. And clarity always comes before movement. You are not imagining this. You are not reading into things. You are not late. You are not broken. You are being prepared in ways you could not see. And now, because the preparation has reached a certain threshold, the message can finally reach you without overwhelming you. God does not rush revelation. Revelation arrives when it can be received without being misused. Circle back to this truth and let it anchor you. This is a message from God. You were called. Your awareness is opening because the next season requires it. Your light is not optional. It is necessary, and what God is preparing will not require you to become someone else. It will require you to finally trust who you already are becoming. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, even if you can't fully explain it yet. You were called. Why the door was hidden from your awareness. Chosen one, return to the beginning of this truth and let it settle again. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you've felt. You were not confused for no reason. You were called, and because you were called, certain things had to remain hidden from you until the right moment. God does not reveal everything at once to the chosen one, not because you are unworthy, but because you are valuable. What carries purpose must be protected, even from premature awareness. There are doors God hides on purpose, not locked doors, not denied doors, but unseen doors. Doors that would have disrupted your growth if you had known about them too early. Awareness before readiness creates fear. Vision before maturity creates pressure. Knowing too soon would have made you chase, force, or idolize what was meant to unfold naturally. God hid the door because your spirit was still being shaped to walk through it without losing yourself. This is where confusion often enters. You searched honestly. You tried faithfully. You did what you knew to do. And still, things felt blocked. Still, progress felt delayed. Still, clarity came and went like a fading signal. And somewhere along the way, you may have turned that frustration inward. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you missed something, failed something, or misunderstood your path. But hear this clearly now, the door was not hidden because you were wrong. It was hidden because you were early. Divine preparation does not announce itself. It works beneath the surface, quietly rewiring perception, strengthening discernment, and building internal stability before external movement begins. While you thought nothing was happening, God was shaping how you would respond when the door finally appeared. Not everyone can handle access. Not everyone can hold opportunity without being consumed by it. The chosen one is prepared slowly because the assignment requires depth, not speed. God's silence during those seasons was not abandonment. Silence was strategy. If God had spoken loudly, you might have mistaken instruction for urgency. If the path had been obvious, you might have attached your identity to outcomes instead of alignment. So God stayed quiet, not absent, but intentional. Silence taught you how to listen inwardly. Delay taught you patience without bitterness. Being blocked taught you discernment instead of desperation. This is where the war becomes real. Not a war of noise, but a war of perception. Anything carrying light attracts resistance, confusion, and distraction. The enemy does not need to destroy the chosen one, only to rush them, misalign them, or convince them they are behind. That is why self-blame tries to take root during hidden seasons. That is why doubt whispers that you are doing something wrong. But self-blame was never the truth. It was a distraction from recognizing preparation. You were never meant to strive your way into this door. Striving would have trained you to force instead of trust. You were meant to mature into alignment. That is why some opportunities disappeared just as you reached for them. That is why certain paths collapsed without explanation. God was narrowing your focus, not your future. Removing options that looked right but weren't aligned. Protecting you from doors that would have cost you your peace, your integrity, or your calling. Being chosen does not mean being superior. It means being responsible. Divine calling is not entitlement, it is stewardship. That is why preparation feels heavy at times. That is why isolation showed up. That is why your journey didn't look like others. God prepares the chosen one privately, so they do not rely on validation publicly. Ego cannot carry what humility must sustain. If you felt blocked, it was because access without readiness would have harmed you. If you felt delayed, it was because timing without maturity would have overwhelmed you. God was not withholding good from you. God was preserving you for good. And now, because you have been shaped by waiting, refined by silence, and strengthened by unseen battles, your awareness is beginning to expand safely. Circle back to this truth again and again. This is a message from God. You were not lost. You were being led quietly. You were not rejected. You were being protected. The war you felt was real because your light is real, and light that matters must be guarded until it can stand without flickering. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are prepared in ways you are only beginning to recognize. And when the door becomes visible, you will not panic. You will not chase. You will recognize it the same way you recognized this message, calmly, clearly, and deeply. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. The silent preparation you mistook for delay. Chosen one, return again to the beginning of this truth and let it steady you. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you lived through. You were not stalled, forgotten, or left behind. You were called, and because you were called, your preparation had to happen in silence. God always works inwardly before anything outward ever changes. What you experienced as delay was not inactivity. It was deep, precise, and intentional formation. Before God opens a door in the physical world, He prepares the chosen one in the unseen places of the soul. Character is shaped before opportunity appears. Emotional maturity is refined before responsibility increases. Discernment is sharpened before access is granted. You were being taught how to remain steady under pressure, how to stay clear when emotions rise, how to hear truth without being overwhelmed by noise. These lessons cannot be rushed. They must be lived. This is why so much of your preparation felt lonely. This is why people misunderstood you, drifted away, or could not walk with you into certain seasons. Isolation was not punishment. Isolation was protection. God removes unnecessary voices so the chosen one can hear clearly again. When too many opinions surround someone who carries light, confusion replaces clarity. So God quieted the environment around you, not to break you, but to strengthen your inner alignment. You may have questioned why things became heavier instead of lighter, why responsibility increased, even when reward didn't, why your inner world felt stretched while your outer world seemed still. But pressure refines capacity. Waiting builds spiritual stamina. Silence teaches discernment. God was expanding how much you could carry without losing your peace. That kind of strength cannot be learned publicly. It is formed privately, often painfully, and always purposefully. Spiritual awakening rarely feels beautiful at first. It often feels like loss. Old identities begin to dissolve. Former desires no longer satisfy. Familiar paths feel empty. This is not because something is wrong with you, but because something is changing within you. Awakening strips away what no longer fits so truth can stand clearly. It feels like confusion before it feels like clarity. It feels like grief before it feels like freedom. And many people misinterpret this phase as regression when it is actually deep alignment forming. You were not being punished when things fell apart. You were being unburdened. God removes attachments that would limit the next version of you, that includes relationships, expectations, and even dreams that were never meant to last beyond a certain season. Letting go felt like loss, because you didn't yet see what was being made possible. But God never subtracts without intention. What leaves creates room for what must arrive. The war you sensed during this time was real, not loud, not dramatic, but internal and persistent. Whenever light is being refined, resistance increases, doubt tries to weigh you down. Fatigue tries to convince you to settle. Confusion tries to distort your self-image. But you survived those seasons not because you were strong on your own, but because you were sustained. Even when you felt tired, something within you refused to fully quit. That resilience was not accidental. It was planted. God was teaching you how to stand without external reassurance, how to trust without constant confirmation, how to move without applause. These are not small lessons. They are essential for anyone whose calling requires longevity. Quick affirmation builds ego. Quiet endurance builds integrity. And integrity is what allows the chosen one to walk through open doors without being consumed by them. If you felt unseen, it was because your preparation was not meant to be witnessed. If you felt misunderstood, it was because your transformation was internal. People could not recognize the work because it wasn't visible yet. But God saw every tear, every internal battle, every moment you chose restraint over reaction. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was overlooked. Circle back now and hear this again with clarity. This is a message from God. You were not delayed. You were being prepared in ways that protected your future. The war you felt was confirmation that your light mattered. Light that carries no purpose is never refined. Light that carries no assignment is never contested. Your light is necessary. That is why it was guarded. That is why it was tested. That is why it was strengthened in silence. And now, because you have endured without hardening, waited without bitterness, and grown without losing your core, you are standing on the edge of readiness. Not rush, readiness. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, deep within yourself. You were called. Recognizing the signs that the door is almost ready, chosen one, circle back to the beginning and hear this again with steady clarity. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift you are feeling. You were called, and because you were called, there comes a moment when endurance quietly transforms into expectancy. Not excitement, not impatience, but a calm inner knowing that something is aligning. This is where you are now. When an unexpected breakthrough is approaching, the signs are rarely external. There is no loud announcement, no dramatic signal in the outer world. Instead, the changes happen within you first. One of the earliest signs is detachment. You begin to loosen your grip on outcomes you once desperately needed. Things you prayed for, planned for, or tried to control no longer hold the same emotional charge. This is not giving up. This is alignment. When the door is almost ready, your spirit stops clinging to doors that were never meant to open. Another sign is the loss of urgency. Not laziness, not indifference, but the quiet disappearance of panic. You no longer feel like time is chasing you. The pressure to rush, prove, or force begins to dissolve. You still care, but you are no longer driven by anxiety. This happens because your spirit senses that God's timing is taking over. Urgency belongs to fear. Alignment belongs to trust. When trust grows, urgency fades. Discernment also sharpens during this phase. You become more selective without trying. Certain conversations no longer appeal to you. Certain environments feel draining instead of exciting. You notice things more clearly, but you react less emotionally. This is not withdrawal. This is maturity. God prepares the chosen one to recognize what belongs and what does not before opening anything new. Discernment is a sign that your awareness is catching up with your preparation. Peace replacing anxiety is another powerful indicator. Not perfect peace, not the absence of all worry, but a deeper steadiness underneath everything. Even when circumstances are unclear, you feel anchored. Questions no longer spiral the way they used to. You may still not know how things will unfold, but you trust that they will. This peace is not self-generated. It is the result of alignment forming beneath the surface. You may notice that confusion is fading, even if answers are not fully present yet. This is important. Clarity does not always arrive as information. Sometimes it arrives as calm. When the mind stops racing, when the heart stops resisting, when the need to understand everything relaxes, alignment is taking shape. God does not always explain the door before opening it. Sometimes He simply prepares you to walk through without fear. Quiet readiness is perhaps the clearest sign of all. You do not feel rushed, but you feel available. You do not feel desperate, but you feel open. You sense that if something shifted tomorrow, you could handle it. And if it didn't, you would still be okay. This balance only forms when inner preparation is nearly complete. God never opens doors for the unsteady. Readiness is calm, not loud. It is important to understand that none of these signs depend on external success. The world may still look the same. Circumstances may not have changed yet, but you have. And that is where every true breakthrough begins. God's timing prioritizes internal alignment over external evidence. When the inside is ready, the outside follows. The war you fought earlier begins to quiet here, not because it was imagined, but because its purpose is ending. Resistance lessens when refinement is complete. The battles you faced were never meant to last forever. They were meant to prepare you to carry what comes next without losing your center. Light that is necessary must be stable before it is revealed. If you recognize yourself in this season, do not second-guess it. Recognition is not coincidence. It is response. You are not forcing belief. You are remembering truth. This message is reaching you now because your awareness can hold it. That alone tells you something has shifted. Return once more to this foundation and let it strengthen you. This is a message from God. You were called. The war you felt was real because your light is real and your light is necessary. That is why it was refined instead of rushed. That is why peace is replacing pressure. That is why expectancy is quietly rising within you. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now without needing proof or permission. You were called. Why this door is different from everything you asked for. Chosen one, return again to the foundation and let it ground you. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift in expectation you are feeling. You were called, and because you were called, the door God is preparing will not look like the doors you once begged to open. God rarely answers prayers by repeating old visions. He answers them by transcending them. Many of the things you asked for were sincere. They came from honest desire, real pain, and genuine hope. But they were shaped by who you were at the time you asked. God listens with compassion, but He responds with foresight. He sees the full trajectory of your calling, not just the moment you were standing in. That is why this door may bypass former dreams, old identities, and even prayers you once believed defined your future. Not because those prayers were wrong, but because they were incomplete. Disappointment often enters when expectations collide with evolution. You may have felt confused when certain desires faded, when goals that once motivated you lost their emotional charge. But this was not loss. It was recalibration. God was quietly removing attachments to versions of life that could no longer hold the person you were becoming. What once felt like purpose may now feel too small. That is not arrogance. That is growth. This door is different because it does not need you to become someone else. It meets you as you are now, not as who you used to be. Old dreams often required proving, striving, or performing. This door requires alignment. It does not respond to force. It responds to readiness. That is why chasing no longer works the way it used to. You were not meant to drag this door open. You were meant to walk through it when it recognizes you. God's message often prepares us for something better than what we requested, but better does not always look louder. Sometimes it looks quieter, steadier, and more sustainable. Better may not impress everyone else. Better may not match the image you once held, but better will match your spirit. Better will not cost you your peace. Better will not demand that you abandon your integrity. Better will not require constant self-betrayal to maintain. This is where humility becomes essential. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is releasing the need to control how fulfillment arrives. Trust grows when you allow God to redefine success without resistance. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means cooperation. You still show up. You still act when guided. But you stop insisting that things unfold according to your old script. The war you faced earlier often intensifies when surrender approaches. Resistance tries to pull you back toward familiar desires, even when they no longer fit. Nostalgia disguises itself as purpose, but discernment now allows you to see the difference. You are not giving up dreams. You are allowing God to upgrade them. This door is different because it aligns with who you have become, not who you were trying to escape. It does not exist to validate your worth. It exists to express it. And that is why it arrives without the chaos you once expected. When the right door opens, it does not confuse you. It clarifies you. If you feel both uncertainty and peace at the same time, that is a sign of trust forming. You do not need every detail to move forward anymore. You need alignment. And alignment has been building quietly inside you through every season you misunderstood. Circle back one final time and let this anchor you. This is a message from God. You were called. The war you endured was real because your light is real and your light is necessary, which is why God refused to satisfy you with anything less than what could truly hold it. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, beyond explanation or doubt. You were called. Walking toward the door without forcing it open. Chosen one, return once more to the beginning and let this truth steady your steps. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the quiet pull toward alignment you are feeling. You were called. And because you were called, your path does not unfold through chasing, striving, or forcing outcomes. It unfolds through alignment, through presence, through trust that listens more than it rushes. Walking toward the door God is preparing does not look like running ahead of it. It looks like staying where your feet are while your spirit remains open. Alignment begins when you stop living in constant anticipation of what's next and start honoring what is now. Not complacency, not passivity, but grounded awareness. God often speaks through small nudges, subtle redirections, and gentle discomforts that guide without overwhelming. Obedience at this stage is quiet. It does not announce itself. It responds. Emotionally clean living becomes essential here. Old resentments, unresolved bitterness, and lingering attachments weigh down discernment. They blur perception and distort timing. God prepares the chosen one to walk lightly so they can move clearly. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means processing it honestly and releasing what no longer serves alignment. Emotional maturity is not indifference. It is clarity without reactivity. Patience at this stage is not waiting with frustration. It is waiting with trust. Patience is faith in motion, not delay in disguise. When you trust God's timing, you stop demanding signs and start recognizing guidance. You notice when something feels off without needing proof. You step back when something requires force. You lean forward when something flows without anxiety. Discernment sharpens when urgency dissolves. Restraint is one of the highest expressions of faith. Knowing when not to act, when not to speak, when not to pursue, is just as important as knowing when to move. Many doors remain closed, not because God is withholding, but because the chosen one is still learning how to pause. Forcing always feels productive in the moment, but it creates complications later. Surrender, though quieter, accelerates alignment. Your divine calling was never meant to be achieved through exhaustion. If something requires you to abandon your peace, compromise your values, or constantly overextend yourself, it is not aligned. The right door does not demand chaos. It recognizes readiness. And readiness is calm, steady, and grounded. This is where many misunderstand surrender. Surrender does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what is yours without trying to do what is God's. You show up fully where you are led. You respond to what is placed in front of you. You remain open without being desperate. You stay attentive without being anxious. This balance is learned, not forced. It emerges naturally when trust deepens. The war you fought earlier taught you resilience. This phase teaches you restraint. Both are necessary. Light that cannot endure will burn out. Light that cannot pause will scatter. God shapes both endurance and stillness in the chosen one, so that when movement begins, it is sustainable. You may notice now that forcing feels uncomfortable, almost foreign. That is not hesitation. That is alignment rejecting misdirection. When something is right, it does not require convincing your spirit. It resonates quietly. When something is wrong, no amount of logic will settle the unease. Trust that. That sensitivity was refined through every season you thought was delay. Walking toward the door means staying faithful to the present moment while remaining open to what unfolds. It means honoring the process without needing to control the outcome. God does not need your pressure. God needs your availability. Circle back one final time and let this truth anchor you deeply. This is a message from God. You were called. The war you endured was real because your light is real and your light is necessary, which is why it is being guided carefully, not rushed carelessly. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, quietly and clearly. You were called. Final confirmation. This door was prepared with your name on it. Chosen one, circle back to the beginning one last time and let this truth settle fully into your spirit. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the sense of completion you are beginning to feel. You were called. And this message reached you now because the preparation phase is nearing its end. Not because everything is finished, but because you are ready in ways you were not before. Nothing about this journey was accidental. Every delay, every season of silence, every moment where you felt unseen was shaping your capacity to stand where you are now without collapsing under the weight of what comes next. God does not confirm a thing prematurely. Confirmation arrives when the soul can receive it without fear, pride, or confusion. That is why this message feels calm instead of overwhelming. That calm is readiness. This door was prepared with your name on it, not because you earned it through effort, but because you were shaped for it through surrender. You did not force your way here. You did not manipulate timing. You endured, refined, waited, and listened. That matters. Readiness is not about perfection. It is about alignment. And alignment has been quietly forming within you. An unexpected breakthrough does not arrive loudly. It does not need to announce itself with chaos or spectacle. It arrives decisively, cleanly, often without drama. When the right door opens, it does not throw your life into confusion. It brings clarity. It does not demand panic. It invites trust. And when it comes, you will recognize it the same way you recognized this message, not with fear, but with knowing. You may still have questions. You may still not see the full picture. That does not mean you are unprepared. It means you are finally positioned to move without needing to control every detail. God does not reveal the entire path at once. He reveals enough for the next faithful step. Peace is the signal that you are standing where you are meant to stand. The war you felt along the way was real. It was not imagined. Resistance follows purpose. Pressure follows calling. Confusion follows light. But notice how the intensity has shifted. The fight is no longer consuming you. It has refined you. What once drained you now strengthens you. What once overwhelmed you now sharpens you. That is how you know the season is changing. Your light is necessary. That is why it was protected instead of exposed too early. That is why you were hidden when you wanted visibility. That is why you were slowed down when you wanted speed. God was not delaying your life. God was preserving your assignment. And now, because you can carry it without losing yourself, the door can finally become visible. This message reached you because recognition is now safe. You no longer need to chase confirmation. You no longer need to prove your calling. You no longer need to rush God's timing. Trust has replaced urgency. Peace has replaced pressure. Discernment has replaced desperation. These are not small shifts. They are the signs of readiness. If you feel aligned with this moment, comment 777, not as a ritual, not as a requirement, but as a quiet acknowledgement that something within you knows this is real. Do not fear missing it. You will not miss what is meant for you. What God prepares with your name on it cannot be taken by confusion, delay, or opposition. It arrives when alignment is complete, not when impatience demands it. And when it opens, you will not have to force yourself to walk through. Your spirit will already be standing at the threshold. Return to this truth and carry it with you. This is a message from God. You are not imagining. You were called. The war was real because your light is real, and your light is necessary, which is why it has been refined with such care. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now without needing signs or permission. You were called.